webinar for tonight will be recorded. So you will be able to get the recording in your email about a week after today. So if you have to leave the session for any reason, you will get the recording link sent out to you via email. And we are going to save a little bit of time at the end of our session for a Q&A. So if you have any questions, definitely put them in the Q&A box. Just please know, because of the number of attendees that we have with us today, we won't be able to answer any personal specific questions, and those we will give you some contact information at the end of the webinar so that you can direct them to us afterwards. So just quickly going over the agenda, we'll go over Johns Hopkins School of Education overview, and then I'll turn it over to our faculty presenters. They'll introduce themselves, go through a very quick high-level overview of the EdD program, as well as a deep dive into the problem of practice. And then, as I said, we will leave some time at the end of our session for a Q&A. Just some fast facts about the School of Education. Our total enrollment is just under 1,800 students at 1,741. We have a little over 100 full-time faculty members, including 15 joint emeriti and courtesy appointments. We award 920 degrees annually and are very proud to have 24,000 alumni from the School of Education. Our student body consists of 70% females, 25% males, and 24 of our students are international, coming from 47 different countries across the globe. And we are very proud to be ranked number 8 in the best education schools from the U.S. News and World Report. At this time, I'll go ahead and send it over to our faculty members so they'll introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Juliana Pare-Blagoyev, and my computer has just restarted for the 3rd time in the last several minutes. So I'm joining you for the moment by phone, but I will be on, I hope, if my computer cooperates more fully in just a little bit. So I am an associate clinical faculty member here at Hopkins, and I have worked within the EdD program for 7 years. I am very excited about the directions that our EdD program has taken over the years, and look forward to sharing some details with you about that later. My own background is in first human development and psychology with a focus on neuroscience and education. I have also done a great deal of work in research practice partnerships, focused inside of both school settings and in joint school and medical settings. Happy to be here.
Hello all, my name is Megan Call-Cummings. I am also an associate professor here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. I've come more recently than Juliana. I started with the faculty here in 2023, so this is just my 2nd year. Before this, I was at George Mason University, which is sort of on the other side of Washington, D.C. in Virginia, and I was there for 7 years. I'm a qualitative methodologist, so I'm trained in training people how to do research. And I do the research that's not statistics. So if any of you out there are like, ew, research, it's the stuff talking to people that I do. And I'm most excited about participatory action research, which you may have heard of. It revolves around engaging people who are most often like pushed out of the research process or marginalized or even wounded by the research process. And really centering their experiences and expertise. So in the context of education, that often revolves around doing research with students and with teachers, especially to gain their perspectives on how education and schooling should change to better serve them. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm excited to talk with you a little bit about our program. Thanks. So I can go ahead and talk just a little bit about the vision and mission of the EdD program. I mean, it says it right here, and I don't need to read it to you. So maybe I'll just pause for a minute for you to kind of skim both of those, and then I can talk a little bit about what I think and what I appreciate about the vision and mission of the EdD program in the School of Education. So as you skim through those, what I really think is most important is that this program is designed to help you identify problems, things that need to change, issues with systems of education, right in your context, right? So we're not asking you to go to a different country or, identify a different population if you don't want to, right? But think about what you've already probably been thinking about for the past 5 or 10 years. And the EdD program gives you a great opportunity to investigate those things that you've been thinking about and gives you the tools to explore and address them in the program and then as you leave the program. Juliana, did you want to add anything more to that?
You covered it really well. I think that I would only want to add that one of the things that I'm most excited about when we're talking a little bit more later about the kinds of problems of practice that people have engaged in here is that the new approach that we were using with something, if you come here, you'll come to understand if it's like Boyer's model of scholarship. It helps students move more quickly to a place where they prioritize and see the value of thinking very critically, but also leveraging their own professional expertise. Often in contextualized research like this, there is for individuals and who are going into a research environment for the first time, maybe a sense that the real knowledge comes only from sort of the research space, especially once you're in a doctoral program, there can be that feeling. But as Dr. Call Cummings has talked about with the participatory action research lens and others, there's ways to understand that the contributions that come from practice-based experience also have very important and, when intentionally leveraged, very important ways to add to your doctoral work. So who is the doctoral degree for education ideal for? When we talk about experienced practitioners, that could mean practitioners across all kinds of different disciplines. I've had students who were experienced practitioners in the realm of working in kidney dialysis clinics. I've had a playwright who then went into the corporate setting and had been there for more than 15 years. So your domain of expertise, as long as it intersects with something related to teaching and learning, broadly construed, is a very important feature of you coming in. But regardless of that domain, what's necessary is that you're interested in analyzing and critiquing learning and teaching practice. So educational practice could mean informal, structured educational spaces, or it could mean other types of settings in which people learn and teach. And we also bring you in with a social justice and a systems perspective. So a systems perspective would encompass recognizing that we all work within an ecology of influences that include embodied experiences and also things in the environment. You are going to be interested in applying relevant methodologies, so it's not willy-nilly. You're looking at critical challenges. They should be interesting to you, but also important to leverage and make change in. I've alluded already to the research and practice-based knowledge, and you'll hear more about that as we go. It's also something that is important to know that might not be top of mind when you think about going into doctoral program, that we want you to be communicating effectively with diverse audiences. That doesn't just mean diversity where the number of individuals have different features as humans, but also diverse audiences related to policy, related to practice, related to research, related to influencing particular audiences to understand and adopt perspectives that help to broaden their understanding. Program at a glance. This is the part where I get less wordy. So you need to be coming in with a master's degree. Up to 36 of those graduate credits can be transferred automatically. There are opportunities for adjustments, but that needs to be something that's discussed on a case-by-case basis. And a minimum of 48 of the total 90 graduate credits that would go towards your doctoral degree must be completed at Hopkins. The areas of interest are not silos. So you may have an area of interest that overlaps between one and the other. So you may be interested, for example, in entrepreneurial leadership in education. I have a student currently who is running schools in Nigeria. And so he has a very entrepreneurial leadership space in that way, but he's also is part of that work developing an AI-related game tool that's intended to be a way to help support and generate money for his schools. So there's intersections there. And to be honest, there's also neurodiversity and neuroeducation potential. So there would be courses that he would be interested in taking related to that. And urban leadership rounds out our current areas of interest. You've already seen us talk a little bit about that first bullet. And I talked about wanting to be able to speak to multiple audiences. We have decided as a faculty to support our students to communicate about their research findings in modalities other than just scholarly writing. So drawing again from one of my students, she worked with a local arts museum in her setting in Sarasota, Florida. And part of the communication of her research included collecting artifacts and in using them in an installation about teacher-student relationships. It's currently running in Sarasota, Florida, and we can give you a link so that you could go and see it because it's online as well as in person. The program is intended to run in a way that allows you to really spend your time thinking about what you are doing and engaged in. So the coursework has engagement with your doctoral dossier project that you'll be doing. That gives you a chance to simultaneously work on a selected problem that you care about. You're working in your own settings, right? You're all coming in while you're in the program, also working in your settings. So the material that you are reading in your courses, you're automatically interpreting and having like this bump up against experience, your problem of practice, and also your daily professional work. It's a very interesting, rich, robust experience because there's just always tension, right, between what it says on paper and what happens in the classroom. And that, or whatever your walk of professional life is, but that tension is, I think, one of the really useful aspects of, I think of graduate school as a cauldron, and having to be in this space where you're constantly grappling with, what am I reading? What do these researchers care about? Like, they did good research, I can tell that. Like, I understand it was followed important rules, but is it relevant to me? The first bullet here, we have rigorous and relevant. I think of relevant as a really important part of rigor, but not one that is traditionally incorporated into research practices. It's woven through everything we do within this EdD program.
Now on to the problem of practice that we've mentioned several times. So you can see here what the problem of practice should be. I want to first talk about this idea of a problem, right? This is something that really kind of strikes me, almost just makes me wake up at night when we think about problems of practice, because for me, I do research, at least I hope it's sort of a defining characteristic of my research, that is really like anti-deficit, right? So it's really working against centering problems in terms of sort of characterizing people or groups or communities or neighborhoods as problems and really focusing on as we've talked about in previous slides, what's wrong with the system, right? What inhibits people's agency? What constrains people or communities or neighborhoods or classrooms or teachers or whatever it is, right? So when we think about problems of practice, I'd encourage you to think about it in that way so that you're not engaging in that kind of deficit orientation, thinking about, okay, who's damaged and who needs to be fixed, right? And don't pull that part as like a soundbite or something. That's really what we're not trying to do. We're trying to think about, okay, what's wrong with the system, whatever that is in your context, and how does it show up in my space, in my classroom, in my office, in my lab, whatever it is. And then how can I explore that, approach that, investigate that, and think about fixing that part of the system through your work in the EdD. So again, this just goes into more detail around like, okay, so how do I identify my POP, right? So here's a first clue. If you get into the EdD program, we call it the POP, right? The problem of practice. So you're already way ahead. Well, just think about, your everyday life. As you go through your practice, as you go to your job on a daily basis, what annoys you, right? What do you think, oh, that needs to change? Maybe it might even be super backgrounded because you might be so used to it that you almost don't even recognize it anymore. You might consider like keeping a journal, a professional or POP journal for a few weeks to really start to be intentional about the things that you notice in your practice, the things that bother you or the things that feel unfair to you, the things that constrain you yourself, your own agency in your own practice, right? Those are the types of things that might lead you toward a problem of practice. So your application requires that you create some sort of POP or problem of practice statement. This should be really succinct, right? We're not looking for a 10-page paper here. Much, much less than that. We're not asking you to do a lot. Juliana talked about how we appreciate different modalities, right? So this is not something that we're assessing in terms of your writing quality or things like that. We're just really interested in what you think about and how we can match you up with faculty expertise that can help support your work and the evolution of your problem of practice as you attend Hopkins School of Education. So you would start by just stating the broad problem, and you don't need to use jargon, right? Just really, what have you observed in your own context? You might begin with kind of an introductory sentence, right? Something simple. Then you want to provide just kind of like how you've thought about that 5-sentence paragraph since, I don't know, 3rd, 4th grade, probably. I have a 4th grader. I think she's doing 5-sentence paragraphs at this point, right? So you start with that introductory sentence, then those 3 pieces of evidence, right? You might cite some scholarly articles, or you might just cite your own experiences. Maybe a recent equity audit came out in your school and you want to cite that, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be you looking up citations on Google Scholar or something like that, but provide 3 strong pieces of evidence that support your identification of the problem, right? And then really you want to talk about, okay, how does this problem manifest in your professional context? One thing that's really important is to start thinking about, now, again, we're not asking you to solve the problem in your application statement. So just start thinking about and talking about what are the factors associated with this problem? So if you identify the problem, what sort of feeds the problem? What makes it an issue, right? What are the kind of mini or sub issues going on? That's what we're talking about when we talk about those factors, okay? And then you want to just identify a potential area of interest, the ones that Juliana mentioned earlier, and talk about, kind of how you could see yourself fitting in sort of to those areas of interest, just like how Juliana gave the example of her own student and how it sort of crosses the boundaries of several of those areas of interest. That's what you want to do as well. You don't need to necessarily pick one and you don't get any other options, right, for the next 3 or 4 years. No. Just start thinking about it. We want you to just let us know that you're thinking about how you see yourself fitting into what we offer at Hopkins SOE. And then finally, here are some questions that might help you start to consider how you'll write your own POP or problem of practice statement. Again, what have you observed? What things have you thought are problematic in your professional context? And are there data available to illustrate the existence? And remember, just like Juliana talked about, we are not solely requiring that you provide scholarly or peer-reviewed or empirical evidence. Those are all things you'll learn about and talk about in your very first semester, right? But we're also talking about data that you might pull from your very professional context. Again, has a report come out? Has your superintendent issued a statement recently? All those types of things are sort of fair game, right? In terms of that data that we're talking about. You might consider how it's playing out, like right in your own office or in your own lab, what that problem looks like. And then how you'll be able to address the POP or what you're thinking about in terms of impacting your professional context to improve the situation related to the identified problem of practice. So here are some examples. You can just kind of look through these. They're sort of right here, achievement disparities. People talk about that a lot, especially in education, right? There might be differences in how people approach instruction. Maybe you're a technology person, but you know that it's not really being taken up in a way that you'd like in your own context or in another context that you see or that you work with. You might wish that people used more data or evidence in the decision-making in your own context, or you might think that people need to interpret student evaluations in a different way. All these sorts of things are examples of problems of practice, but please be assured that this is not at all an exhaustive list. This is just some ideas to get you thinking about what you might consider as your own problem of practice.
Thank you, Megan and Juliana. So we're going to start here with some kind of frequently asked questions that I typically get from students as I'm talking to them about the program and about their application. And then we will open it up to the Q&A. So just whoever wants to lend some insight on this. So what is the relationship between a student's context of professional practice and the EdD program's problem of practice and the doctoral dossier?
So I'll hop in on that one. I think that this is one of those places where it's important to know that there's some amount of flexibility, but you also want to be strategic in how you think about going forward. So the majority of the time that students are sort of most successful is when they pick a POP that allows them to very effectively leverage their relationships with other people inside of their setting. So if you are a department chair in math, just to make a really extreme example, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense for you to be doing a POP about how principals across your district manage school climate, because the principals aren't likely to be, people that you interact with on a regular basis. You're probably not going to have a lot of leverage in that sort of space to collect data in effective ways. You also want to be mindful if you're working, say, in a corporate setting, you want to be mindful about what sorts of things might that corporation be happy or unhappy. And that's true about almost any setting, right? Like happy or unhappy about you looking into. There's wonderful spaces to do research that uncovers uncomfortable truths. However, if you're doing that kind of work, and you want to make an applied difference in your context, your relationship to the people in your context makes all the difference in the world, right? If you are working collaboratively with people and you kind of co-discover issues, people are going to be a lot more open to working on them than if you haven't tried to do a development of relationship and get buy-in on the things that you're working on.
Thank you. And then what is the relationship between the problem of practice and the candidate's selected areas of interest?
I would say that the relationship is loose, iterative, bidirectional. Education is a field, and what that means is that it draws on many different disciplines. A discipline is really defined by the type of methods that are used and the sorts of questions that people within that discipline think are interesting, right? So you could imagine like the reality that cancer is studied from many different disciplinary perspectives, and that it's going to be defined in terms of whether or not you are doing microbiology, and there's certain kinds of questions and methods that microbiologists would use, or you might be looking at it from the perspective that I do when I consider the experiences of families affected by pediatric cancer in terms of schooling. So what that means from the selected area of interest is that every problem of practice could be attacked or leverage multiple different areas of interest. So you may come in with a strong idea that you are neuro everything from top to bottom, right? You've been infected by the brain bug and you're just excited to pieces about it. And then you get in and you start thinking, well, that's what I'm really interested in some ways, but what seems leverageable to me and relevant, again, thinking about this relationship of your context in relationships in your professional practice. And you may think that you want to shift a little bit and think about it from an entrepreneurial lens or urban leadership. So what's the relationship? It's iterative, it could change, and it will drive certain course selections.
Fantastic. And then does the problem of practice have to be drawn from the workplace?
This is a strategic question more than anything else at this point. So I like my students to be mindful that the problem of practice should represent a sweet spot between what you're really, really interested in, what kind of information you can have access to that might allow you to investigate that. It might be the case that you know that the chances are good that you're not going to stay in this particular job for the entirety of your time at the doctoral program for one reason or another. In that case, it might be that you choose a problem of practice that is in your current workplace, and then it turns out either that you shift and do some aspect of your projects in another setting on something different, or you don't draw it from your workplace. I, for example, have a student who works in volunteer capacities within her community in a number of ways. So even though she's shifted jobs 3 times in the year and a half that she's been working with me, her POP work has remained stable-ish. There's always lots of changes, but in the space of using the context of her community dynamics.
Awesome. And then finally, does the problem of practice need to be fully defined in the admissions application essay?
It's impossible for it to be fully defined in the application essay.
Yeah.
It should be coherent, right? Like it could be a possible POP, but everybody's POP will change so much by the time you're all the way through things. So it should be coherent. It should make sense, right? Like I have this problem and I'm interested in it because, and this is the kind of data that I might want to collect around it or my observations that I've seen, but it it absolutely does not need to be fully defined. It needs to be interesting as represented by your curiosity around it, right? You're making the case that this is interesting, this is worth studying. and I'm interested in it and have a reason and ability in terms of access, right, to look into it.
Definitely. I see some questions in the chat about word count for the problem of practice. Generally speaking, 750 words is what we have on the limit. No one is counting the exact words on your problem of practice when we review your application. That is a general guideline because it does need to be succinct. We are, evaluating many applications. So know that for the very reasons that Juliana just went over, that's why your problem of practice cannot be fully defined. 750 words is just simply not enough space in order to articulate that.
There's also a question that I think is a really great one. I can read it. It says, how much interaction do students in the EdD program have with one another? Will students work collaboratively if their POPs intersect? So the answer is yes and yes. And the answer is also they'll work collaboratively if their POPs do not intersect. We are really, really intentional about having students meet each other, support each other, in addition, of course, to receiving faculty support and building relationships with faculty. We think one of the best ways to scaffold your experience is to work collaboratively with each other. And so not only are we intentional on a program level to do that, but also in a course level. Each course often uses pedagogical techniques like small group work, or, like 1 week in a session, you might work in a small group synchronously and like figure out, who's in the same time zone or near the same time zone. And then you might come the next week and work asynchronously with the whole group, things like that. So we're very intentional to make sure that you're building relationships among each other to be able to support each other through the program. Thanks for that question.
Yeah, awesome. Were there any other questions that you typed that you would want to answer live that you thought would be good? I saw you answering a bunch, which is great.
I don't remember them because I was just trying to answer.
Okay.
Sorry.
So could you talk a little bit about, I see some questions about connecting with a faculty member if their POP is under more than one area of interest, or how to kind of address if their POP is connected to more than one area of interest.
Yeah, I can answer that. And I think I tried to, it might have been too quick in my response. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, it's typically going to fall in multiple categories and among multiple areas of interest. And we really encourage you to, if you want to specialize in one and you're just totally ready to do that, feel free. But you should also feel very free to kind of try out different areas of interest and treat them almost like electives. So it's really up to you and what's best for you, what kind of fulfills your own career goals and academic aspirations, in connection with the mentorship of the faculty members that you'll be working with. So it's really up to you. And, education and teaching and learning by definition is interdisciplinary. So often our interests span multiple disciplines and multiple kind of focuses.
Awesome, thank you. Just a quick note, I saw some things about application in here. So if there are any updates that you need to your application, please reach out to the admissions office. We can help you with that if you've already submitted your application. The application deadline is January 15th, 2025. So we do still have some time before the application deadline.
I wanted to take a couple of these. So I'm starting at the top, the 829, the student about who's asking, or the potential student who's asking about her POP or his or her POP that relates to English as as another language in early years. So in principle, yes, that could fit into the areas of interest. I certainly have had, I've had several students from the Middle East that were working on issues that some of them include language. We have multiple students working on language acquisition in the US as well. So I would say, yeah, that would be something that that is an appropriate broad area, right? It would need to be honed in a little more to understand it as a POP, but that broad area, yes. And Mark, the way that you framed this, how can neurodiverse teachers effectively navigate and support neurodiverse students? So I might want you to think there about what is the problem that you are seeing that neurodiverse students or neurodiverse teachers are experiencing. So why is it that you want to leverage what neurodiverse teachers might be able to offer, right? What is the thing that you're seeing that says, maybe neurodiverse teachers can do something different here in order to support students who are having particular kinds of experiences? In regards to acknowledging limitations. So I think what you might be getting at there is if you propose a study related to your POP, there can be limitations in research. So for example, if you have a small sample size, you would be making an acknowledgement of the limitation that, well, we have very rich data from these 5 people in this context, but we wouldn't want to generalize to all schools of education, imagining that you're doing a study on, say, the construction of problems of practice in schools of education. So you're not proposing a study per se, though, in your problem of practice. You are identifying a coherent area of exploration, but you're not proposing something that says, and I'm going to collect exactly this data, this time, that time, and answer this research question. It's a research space that you're describing more than a research question, I would say. International applicant, and I apologize, Yajuan, maybe, for making name pronunciation difficulties. You can see in my name that people pronounce my name all the time incorrectly as well. So the focusing on the POP that you think you might encounter in the future, it can be hard to know what you might encounter in the future. So I think you would want to do some thinking. You might want to reach out to a current faculty member and kind of fine tune what that might look like, because I think it's very tough in this space to know enough about what you're asking. I find that often, even if there's a question where my first thought is, no, you can't focus a POP on something, where there's a bunch of unknowns. And then when I actually talk with an applicant or a student, I understand, oh, there's actually a lot more that's known here. And then we tease that out. Let's see. Oh, something I was just going to answer got moved away. All right.
Juliana, could you talk a little bit more about the urban leadership AOI? There's a question there.
Thank you. I wish I could. I'm not the best.
I was thinking the same thing. I was
yes. Right. I'm not the best faculty member to do that, but I would say,
I can put a link to Eric's bio.
That's what I would recommend.
So hold on one second there, but go ahead, Juliana. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend, because you happen to have the bad luck of 2 faculty members who don't represent that particular area of interest, and because education as a field, remember, is super broad. So it's, yeah, it would be better for you, I think, if you're able to follow up with an email, and I'm sure a faculty member who teaches within that area of interest would be happy to chat with you. The certificate is not marked online as far as I know.
No.
Admissions is not on a rolling basis. The in-person residence is not mandatory. People generally like it, but not mandatory. You do not have to have formal teaching experience at all in order to be in the program. I've had multiple students, again, whose work has them situated outside of formal areas of education. So that is not, that's not necessary. Yes, I think, Lisa, you're probably asking about when the residency is. And it's typically the last week-ish of July. It can be a board role. Pamela's question about the requirement of having a position in an ed organization for the 4 years of the program. It doesn't have to be paid. It could be a board role. And again, it's about having access to the context, not necessarily a employment relationship within that environment. I think it could be a very interesting thing. I don't actually recommend that people study their own children, although it is a tried and true approach in certain cases. But I wouldn't recommend that for this space. I could imagine you studying yourself in relation to things that you are doing in your own family. That takes us in another kind of direction, but autoethnography. That might be relevant to other parents who are, working with a child with complex needs, for example. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Diane. Your interest falls at the intersection of technology, AI, and education. So this question really depends a lot on your capacity. So one of my students is an occupational therapist, and I am on the AI faculty Slack for Hopkins. Somebody in there posted about looking for somebody who might be interested in collaborating on educational issues. And we have begun developing an opportunity that will hopefully allow my student to leverage her occupational therapy background in the design and exploration of using a learning tool that from an AI perspective is interesting because it integrates the simultaneous data collection of speech and writing. But from an OT perspective, there's reasons why that turns out to be interesting for assessment purposes. But we only have access to that resource because there happens to be a good intersection between lucky that this person was posting and interested in it. There's not an official relationship. I have had 2 students that do serious AI work, and I've been able to find partnership opportunities for them, but I can't guarantee it. Let's see. How is POP different or similar to action research? The answer is yes, it is different and similar to action research, right? It depends. Action research is a methodology that has you engaging in real time with participants in an effort to collaboratively understand and address an issue often. POP may or may not be collaborative the way that action research typically is. It is open to more variety of methodological approaches. I can't speak exactly to what the average number of years to complete. I can tell you that my students have had a very large range, but also that we are moving to a space where, as a program, we are supporting students to attend for shorter periods of time. So that's what I would say for that. Megan, do you see ones that you want to hop in verbally? I'm also happy to keep going through.
Yeah, I'm just typing. I'm typing answers right now, so feel free to keep going. Thanks.
Okay, terrific. So taking the next question, how does one's POP shape the paths that students take after they complete their degree? So I will say that it is, like, I'll make a broad statement. It's relatively uncommon for people to undertake the EdD POP approach and anticipate going into higher education to be a faculty member whose primary emphasis is research. It is an applied doctorate that often means that people come into it expecting and wanting to stay in a practice-based profession, but to do so in a way where their engagement with research continues beyond the program. What POP you select, not the one that you apply with, right? But the one that gets selected over time as you interact with peers, the literature, your faculty, that POP and the process of selecting it absolutely shapes your path. And I would say it does it in ways that are partially anticipatable and partially not. The personal and professional journey, all I can say about that is you make friends in a different way in grad school than anywhere else as an adult. It's a cauldron. You're in a positively, we hope, stressful environment, right? There's such thing as positive stress. So enormously. I can't say exactly what lasting impacts, but they're enormous. You never look at the world the same way again. You just don't. It's okay. Most people apply without specifically contacting a faculty member, I would say. But it is also fine to have a conversation. Just don't be looking for specific feedback back and forth about how to approach the POP and how to put in the application. How would I describe the learner experience in the program from your perspective? Kind of like a fire hose, I would say. I would say that all doctoral programs have some element of feeling a sense of isolation at times, and it's really important to speak up about that. That's not specific to online in any way, though. I remember it being very much a facet of my own experience. You get so in your head about your experience, and you also find that you start looking at things differently than your colleagues around you at work. So that can be a positive if you've already got like a relationship with your colleagues. They're like, ooh, and excited for you that you're doing this and you're bringing these new ideas back and forth. That can be a lovely and wonderful experience, but it can also be stressful. I would say that if you have really strong time management skills, things are less challenging. If you're like me, and time management isn't fun for you, then that does have a negative impact. Working with the military. It depends on what you're doing. We've had a number of students who have gone through and done research in military spaces. And in fact, the military is often really interested in leadership development as well as learning and teaching related efforts. We definitely provide support in gaining approval to conduct research. That means that we can help you be realistic and know who to ask, or help you understand who to ask in your own setting so you don't get too far down a road before being clear that this would be something that would be allowed. Boy, Ellie, so Ellie's asking, if Trump secured congressional approval to disband the Department of Education, how would Johns Hopkins respond? How would education and financial aid be affected? I have a lot of thoughts about this. So I won't tell you so many of them, but I will say that if we are entering a period of time when that happens, that civil rights in this country will be set back. Who knows how much? I can't say anything about whether financial aid from a loan perspective would be affected. I don't believe that there is, well, there's a number of policies on the table that a Trump administration is considering, including taxing endowments at very different rates. That could have an impact on financial aid. Johns Hopkins has adopted a institutional restraint policy. I leave it to you, dear reader, to look up what that means. It's a complicated effort. As individual faculty, we are not constrained in any way, and we can be public as individual humans who leverage our professional expertise to make statements, or just as individual people, in which case we're not speaking as Hopkins faculty. I think I'll adopt that one for this moment as you think about what my answer was for that. Yeah, there's a lot of balls up in the air, and they're gonna go up and down. It's hard to say.
Juliana, there are several questions about who they should contact or who leads the neurodiversity and neuroeducation AOI. As a new faculty member, I'm not quite sure about that. Do you know off the top of your head?
So I'm certainly an appropriate person to contact. I would say also Dr. Laura Shaw would be appropriate. Yeah, so I've done work on dyslexia research back a long time ago, and I've done a lot of functional neuroimaging research in different areas. So that would be one space where I could be helpful. So in terms of letters of recommendation, it is definitely important to have one from somebody with a, so I'm thinking about Addie's question about not having a relationship with the professors from your master's. Give a little note to give context for why that is, right? Sometimes people did their master's 10 years ago, right? There's lots of different reasons why this might be the case. So let us know that. I would say, if there's, an understandable, appropriate reason, that certainly is something that would be taken into account. If there are school leaders or others in your community that have a education background, and I mean, like a higher education degree, and that could speak to some aspects of your capacity in regards to that, that would be helpful. Great, somebody else answered a written one. I don't know the answer about whether interviews are happening at this moment.
I can. So interviews have not yet started happening. They will not be extended to all applicants. It is a select group. And those have not yet started going out yet. So if you have a complete application and you did not get selected for an interview, know that we haven't started selecting any candidates at this moment.
Let's see, moving down, there's some of these that I think are maybe written for you.
Yeah, so we have just a couple minutes left. We have 3 minutes left in our hour. So really quickly to go over some admissions things. The application deadline is January 15th, 2025. So you have until then to complete your application. That is the end of the application process. So you need to have in all of your supporting documentation and your submitted application to be reviewed. So January 15th is that final deadline. As far as the acceptance for our cohorts, typically we have about 38 to 40% of our applicants who are accepted into the program, and then our cohorts range between 65 and like 80 or so students that start with us each fall. Last year I do think it was about 74 or 75.
In regards to the question about two different problems of practice, POPs will change. Your POP that you're applying with is not a contract, right? So if you have one and you kind of practice essentially in your application process saying, I think this might be my POP, this is why it's good and interesting, etc., relevant to my context, important for the world. And then you do a left turn. I've had students that do 3 or 4 left turns, right? There's a lot of change that can happen. It's not a contract, and we are looking for curiosity and insight, and what that brings to your process of selecting the POP and putting in the application.
So just as a note, there is my contact information and Raven Minervino's contact information. Just so you know, if you have any specific questions about the program, about if you want to get in contact with specific faculty members, Raven is a great person to reach out to facilitate that. You can reach her at soe.edd@jhu.edu for any application questions, anything about financial aid, or nuances. Like, how do you let us know that you've been out of your master's program for that letter of recommendation? Like, all of those nuanced questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me. You can do that at soe-apply@jhu.edu. I also saw that a lot of you had questions about funding. We do have a webinar based solely on funding for the EdD program coming up this Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. If you are not able to attend, just like this one, it will be recorded. So that is your best place for financial aid and funding questions to get everything answered. I will also send out a follow-up email with links and resources to all of you to kind of answer those general questions about the application. I know that we still have many open questions. We tried to get to as many as possible. I appreciate everyone so much for taking the time to be with us. And thank you to our 2 esteemed faculty members who are with us today. I always love to hear their expertise and their insights to our program and to the problem of practice. So thank you both for taking the time to be with us and to lend your insights. So at this time, we are going to end our webinar, and thank you all, and let us know if you have any additional questions. Hope to see you at the next webinar.